Before start of complete documentary, I would like to highlight history in a few lines as an introduction and purpose of this ancient documentary. They say, time forgets all things, but some places refuse to be forgotten. Hidden in the dense jungles of Cambodia stands a monument so vast, so precise, that even today, no one truly understands how it was built or why. A temple carved from millions of stones, each weighing more than a man could lift, aligned perfectly with the stars. But what if Angkor Wat isn't just a temple? What if beneath its ancient stones lie secrets about gods, kings, and civilizations far older than history itself? Tonight we journey into the heart of Angkor Wat, and what we uncover might change everything we know about our past. For centuries, Angkor Wat has been more than just a symbol of Cambodia. It has been a mystery that defies time. Built in the early 12th century by King Surya Varman II, it was dedicated to Vishnu, the preserver of the universe, but its architecture, its alignment with celestial bodies, and the precision of its carvings suggests something far beyond the capabilities of its age. Was it divine inspiration or lost knowledge from an ancient civilization long erased from history? Archaeologists call it the world's largest religious monument. Explorers call it a miracle of engineering. But locals, they call it sacred ground, a place where gods once walked among men. And tonight we'll explore every stone, every shadow, and every whisper left behind in Angkor's silent corridors, searching for the truth. Before we step inside the gates of the world's most mysterious temple, make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. Because this is just the beginning, and what you're about to discover may change how you see history forever. Let us start the complete documentary on Angkor Wat, the forbidden secrets beneath the world's oldest temple. Ancient Civilizations Documentary. When the first rays of morning strike the sandstone towers of Angkor Wat, the temple seems to awaken, as if the sun itself is an old friend returning to reveal its forgotten glory. For centuries, this alignment has repeated with mathematical perfection, yet no one can truly explain how the people of the 12th century achieved such precision. Every wall, every staircase, every courtyard follows a symmetry so deliberate that it appears less like human craftsmanship and more like a cosmic design inscribed upon the earth. The temple is not a random arrangement of stone, but an equation written in architecture, a silent formula expressing harmony between heaven and humankind. Scholars have long debated how a civilization with no cranes, no steel, and no modern surveying tools could have transported and positioned over 5 million tons of sandstone. The quarries lie more than 30 miles away, across rivers and dense forests, yet the blocks were cut, carried, and set together so perfectly that even a blade of grass cannot slip between them. The precision suggests not just skill but intent, as if the builders followed an invisible map that only they could read. When modern archaeologists began to study the foundations with satellite imaging, they discovered a strange secondary pattern beneath the surface. Buried outlines and hidden chambers arranged in a grid mirroring the constellation of Draco, the celestial serpent winding through the northern sky. It was as if the temple had two blueprints, one carved in stone, another drawn in stars. This revelation ignited new theories about the builders' knowledge of astronomy. Some proposed that Angkor Wat was designed as a terrestrial reflection of the cosmos, a map that allowed priests and astronomers to track celestial cycles and divine the will of the gods. Others went further, suggesting that the alignment was not for observation but communication, a message to the heavens encoded in geometry. The temple's main causeway, unlike most Hindu shrines, faces west rather than east. In Hindu belief, the west is the direction of the setting sun, the passage to death and rebirth. Angkor Wat, therefore, may have served as a bridge between worlds, guiding both kings and commoners toward the eternal. As researchers measured the corridors, They found that the distances between towers correspond to exact multiples of solar and lunar cycles. The central sanctuary represents Mount Meru, the mythical axis of the universe, while the surrounding moats symbolize the cosmic ocean. Nothing is arbitrary. Even the heights of the towers decrease in precise ratios, echoing ancient mathematical constants found in sacred structures from Egypt to Mexico. It is as though the Khmer architects possessed a shared language of the cosmos, one that transcended geography and time. The question then arises, where did this knowledge originate? The Khmer Empire was powerful, but there is little evidence of written manuals or advanced instruments capable of producing such accuracy. Inscriptions describe rituals and offerings, but never the methods of construction. Legends speak of divine assistance, of celestial beings who descended to teach humanity the art of building worlds. To modern ears, it sounds like mythology, yet the more scientists uncover, the less these legends seem like fantasy. Within the temple's heart lies a chamber that resonates naturally at 432 hertz, a frequency considered sacred by numerous ancient cultures. The same tone appears in the Gregorian chants of Europe, the pyramids of Giza, and the megaliths of Malta. Coincidence becomes harder to accept when the same number whispers from civilizations separated by oceans. Some archaeologists, unwilling to invoke divine intervention, look instead to forgotten science. They theorize that the builders used harmonic resonance to move heavy stones, sound frequencies that could reduce friction or create lift. There is no proof, yet the precision of Angkor Wat seems to defy the limits of manpower alone. The sheer scale of the enterprise suggests organization beyond the capabilities of ordinary governance. Thousands of laborers, artisans, and priests must have worked in unity under a vision so exact that every measurement served both spiritual and structural purpose. The temple was not built merely to impress. It was engineered to endure, a stone-bound scripture designed to survive the fall of empires. What makes the mystery deeper is that the blueprint of Angkor Wat extends far beyond its walls. When researchers mapped the surrounding landscape, they found causeways and reservoirs forming geometric patterns on a colossal scale, a network of canals and basins that mirrored the temple's proportions. From the air, the entire complex resembles a giant mandala stretching for miles, as if the builders had drawn a model of the universe upon the earth itself. The hydrological system appears to regulate the flow of water in perfect harmony with seasonal rains, sustaining both agriculture and spiritual symbolism. To the ancients, water was the essence of life, the mirror of the sky. Perhaps Angkor Wat was meant to unite the two, turning the land into a living reflection of the heavens. Yet for all this brilliance, the human record remains silent. No chronicle describes the temple's completion. No contemporary writer claims credit. The inscriptions that do survive speak only of devotion and offering, never of design. It is as if the knowledge vanished with its keepers, leaving behind only the result, a masterpiece without a manual. Historians suspect that political turmoil and religious change may have erased the records, but others believe the secrecy was deliberate. To preserve sacred knowledge, one must conceal it within symbols, allowing only the initiated to perceive its truth. In that sense, the entire temple becomes a cipher, a sacred code hiding in plain sight. The deeper one studies Angkor Wat, the more it feels alive. The layout responds to sunlight and shadow, changing its character from hour to hour. At dawn, it glows gold. At noon, it blazes white. At dusk, it sinks into violet. Each transformation reveals new alignments, as though the temple shifts with the rhythm of time itself. Standing at its center, one senses not a ruin, but a mechanism still turning, still calculating, still connecting the earth to the cosmos. It may be a monument, but it behaves like a clock, a celestial instrument built to synchronize human existence with the eternal dance of the stars. If the lost blueprints ever existed on parchment, they have long since turned to dust. Yet perhaps they were never written on paper at all. Perhaps they were written in proportion, in light, in resonance. Perhaps the true blueprint of Angkor Wat is the temple itself, a message encoded in architecture, awaiting those who can read the language of harmony. Every pillar, Every corridor, every carved lotus seems to hum with intention, reminding us that knowledge does not always fade. Sometimes it hides until the right moment to be seen again. The mystery of how the Khmer achieved such perfection may never be solved, but its existence continues to challenge our understanding of the past. It forces us to question the story of progress, to wonder whether humanity once possessed a deeper connection with the universe, one that modern minds have forgotten. Angkor Wat stands as the last testimony of that union. A blueprint of the gods carved in stone, a bridge between the known and the unknowable. And as long as its towers rise against the Cambodian sky, the temple will continue to whisper its silent question to the world, not asking how it was built, but why we stopped listening to what it was trying to tell us. The walls of Angkor Wat are alive with stories. Stretching for hundreds of meters, they carry the weight of a civilization's beliefs, fears, and cosmic ambitions. Every inch of stone seems to speak a language of its own, a language written not in words but in symbols. These carvings are more than art. They are messages, encoded centuries ago by minds that understood how image and geometry could preserve truths too dangerous or too sacred to say aloud. When the morning sun strikes the reliefs, thousands of figures awaken from shadow. Gods, warriors, dancers, demons, all frozen mid-motion. Each pose deliberate, each gesture hiding something deeper than devotion. The most striking are the apsaras, celestial dancers carved into the walls by the thousands. No two are alike. Some smile faintly, others gaze downward as if aware of a secret they cannot share. Their hands form mudras, sacred gestures, and when mapped across the temple, those gestures form a spiral pattern. That spiral mirrors the Milky Way as it would have appeared in the sky at the time Angkor Wat was constructed. Such detail could not have been accidental. The builders seemed to use beauty as a cipher, embedding astronomical knowledge within divine imagery. It is as though the temple was designed to remind humanity of its connection to the universe, that we too are part of a cosmic dance, moving with the rhythm of creation. The walls tell more than celestial stories. They tell moral and spiritual parables hidden beneath myth. Among the most famous carvings is the churning of the ocean of milk, a vast bas-relief that stretches across an entire gallery. Gods and demons grasp a giant serpent Vasuki, using it as a rope to churn the cosmic ocean in search of Amrita, the nectar of immortality. At first glance, it appears to be a depiction of balance, good and evil locked in eternal struggle. But look closer and another layer emerges. The serpent coils around Mount Mandara, which rests upon the shell of a tortoise, a symbol of stability, endurance, and cosmic foundation. The entire scene may be an allegory for creation itself, the endless turning of opposites, generating the motion of time and the birth of the world. Yet there is something even more peculiar. The serpent in the carving does not resemble the native species found in Cambodia. It has the shape and scale pattern of serpents carved in ancient Egypt, thousands of miles away. Across the world, in civilizations that supposedly never met, the same image appears, a serpent encircling the world, representing knowledge, eternity, and the cycles of rebirth. How could cultures separated by oceans share such identical symbology? Either the human imagination is bound by a shared archetype, or these civilizations drew from a common, ancient source of wisdom, one older than recorded history itself. Throughout the temple, the lotus flower repeats again and again. It blossoms from stone ceilings, forms the base of columns, and decorates the crowns of the apsaras. The lotus, in Hindu and Buddhist tradition, represents purity rising from the mud, enlightenment emerging from the chaos of existence. But when measured, the petals and layers follow mathematical ratios similar to the Fibonacci sequence, a pattern found in nature's spirals from galaxies to seashells. It is as if the lotus was not merely symbolic, but scientific, a reminder that the same laws govern both nature and the divine. Hidden in darker corners of the temple are carvings far less discussed, the ones that guidebooks seldom mention. These depict hybrid beings, half human, half animal, and strange objects resembling wheels, discs, and even elongated capsules. To the ancient eye, they may have represented celestial vehicles or deities descending from the sky. To modern observers, they evoke something eerily mechanical, as though the builders were recording encounters or visions of technologies beyond their understanding. The line between myth and memory begins to blur, and one wonders whether these symbols were warnings, records, or simply the imagination of mystics trying to depict the indescribable. Then there are the wheels, symbols of movement and time. The wheel of Dharma, carved deep into the temple's heart, bears 8 spokes representing the noble path of balance. But when superimposed on astronomical charts, those same 8 directions align perfectly with the cardinal points of celestial navigation. The carvings, it seems, were not just moral guides, but navigational instruments, tools for aligning the spiritual and physical worlds. The builders treated space as sacred and measurement as prayer. Every degree, every line, every orientation served both a divine and a mathematical function. As researchers studied the reliefs more closely, they discovered subtle differences in craftsmanship between certain sections. Some areas were carved with precision so advanced that even modern laser tools could barely match it. Others appeared older, rougher, almost as if they belonged to a previous phase of construction. This inconsistency raised an unsettling possibility that Angkor Wat might have been built over an even older site, inheriting symbols from a forgotten civilization whose knowledge the Khmer only partially understood. It would not be the first time in history that temples were built upon the ruins of older faiths. But what if the builders of Angkor were not replacing a religion? They were continuing one? What if the carvings were fragments of an ancient code passed down through ages, reinterpreted but never fully forgotten? The repetition of serpents, lotuses, and cosmic wheels across cultures hints at a network of knowledge far older than any empire. The same patterns appear in Mayan temples in the Americas, in the ziggurats of Mesopotamia, and in the geometric engravings of Egyptian tombs. Every culture seemed to know that power and wisdom lay in symmetry, proportion, and resonance. The ancients may have spoken different tongues, but their symbols told the same story: that the universe is not random, that life and death are not opposites, and that human beings once knew how to live in harmony with forces greater than themselves. Some scholars have dismissed these connections as coincidence. Others whisper that they are evidence of a lost global civilization, one that perished long before recorded time, but left behind its blueprints in stone. Whether myth or truth, the consistency of symbols across continents forces us to reconsider the timeline of human progress. The people who built Angkor Wat were not primitive dreamers. They were mathematicians, astronomers, philosophers, and artists, guided by principles that blended science with spirituality in ways we barely comprehend today. The forbidden nature of these symbols lies not in their content, but in what they suggest. That history may not be a straight line, but a circle. That what we call discovery may in truth be remembrance. The carvings seem to whisper that humanity once held a key to understanding the balance of the universe, and that key was hidden here, in stone, waiting for a time when the world would once again know how to read it. Perhaps the real secret of Angkor Wat is not what it hides, but what it reveals: that every myth contains a memory, and every symbol is a bridge between the visible and the unseen. When night falls, the carvings disappear into shadow, but their presence remains. The temple breathes through its silence, holding on to stories that refuse to die. As the moonlight touches the reliefs, the dancers seem to move again, the serpent seems to coil, and the lotus seems to bloom once more. The symbols come alive under the gaze of the stars they were built to honor. In those moments, Angkor Wat is no longer a relic of the past. It becomes a mirror reflecting humanity's oldest longing: to understand where we came from, why we are here, and what forces once guided us when the earth and sky still spoke the same language. The temple stands as an architectural masterpiece, yet history is silent about the hands that built it. Angkor Wat rises from the Cambodian plain with the precision of geometry and the scale of myth, but behind its flawless symmetry lies an absence that haunts every historian who studies it. The Khmer Empire, powerful and sophisticated, left behind countless inscriptions praising kings, gods, and victories, but not a single detailed record of how this colossal monument was constructed. It is as if the builders themselves erased their footprints before the final stone was laid, leaving behind only questions that echo louder with every discovery. Archaeologists estimate that it would have taken over 30 years to complete, perhaps longer, involving thousands of workers, artisans, and priests. The sandstone blocks alone number in the millions, each weighing several tons, carved with impossible precision and fitted without mortar. Transporting such weight across rivers and jungles would have required an immense logistical system, yet the evidence of this machinery, the tools, the ramps, the scaffolding, has never been found. There are theories, of course: bamboo cranes, wooden sledges, rafts guided by rope and manpower. But none explain the uniform perfection of every line, nor the absence of mistakes across miles of stonework. To build something of such magnitude without leaving a single trace of trial or error defies both logic and expectation. It suggests that whoever oversaw the project did so with knowledge far beyond ordinary engineering. The Khmer were master builders, yet even their other great temples pale in comparison to Angkor Wat's precision. Each tier, each corner, each step corresponds to exact cosmological numbers, as if the builders were not merely erecting a shrine, but constructing a scale model of the universe itself. Yet this level of perfection requires not only skill, but an understanding of mathematics and astronomy rivaling that of civilizations far to the west. Where did they learn it? Some believe the knowledge came from India, carried along ancient trade routes with Brahmin scholars and priests. Others argue that the Khmer inherited something older, a legacy of a civilization that predates all written history, a culture that may have vanished in some cataclysm, leaving behind fragments of its genius in places like Angkor, Egypt, and Sumer. Whatever the truth, the silence of the builders feels deliberate, as though they were participants in a ritual rather than mere laborers on a royal project. When the French